I'm about to use probably the dumbest rig ever made. I've been working on a new Helix preset to kind of reshape my sound. I'm going for something 80s and maybe a little bit worship inspired, like U2 meets Oingo Boingo meets Elevation, I don't know. But I've been dialing in this preset going through my stereo amp rig, which is an Immix 11 VS15, which is like an AC30-esque style amp, and my new Marshall DSL-1. It sounds amazing, but the problem is I can't bring those amps to where I'm playing tomorrow. So I got the idea of like, well, I do have a Quad Cortex, so what if I capture those amps into the Quad Cortex, and then I'm gonna use my Helix going into the Quad Cortex. So now the Helix is effectively my pedal board, like what I was intending it to be, and now the Quad Cortex is my stereo amp rig. 2 modelers, 1 guitarist, 3 services, 1 life. This might be a really dumb idea, this might be a really cool idea. I know this is not the point of modelers. I've said it many times. The whole point is that you only have one thing, but I'm gonna use 2 things that can do it all to do it all. That was some interesting math. Anyway, I'm gonna feel ridiculous playing through this rig, but I feel like it's gonna sound good. So let's get to capturing and see how this thing goes. What I'm doing now, I think, is kind of the secret weapon. I've set up my amp in one room and then I'm gonna monitor it from a different room. That way I'm actually hearing the sound of the amp through the microphone. Because I think that's the problem a lot of people run into, is the amp sounds really good in the out room, but then when you hear it back on your speakers, you're like, that doesn't sound right. And it's because you were monitoring the sound of the amp in the room. You didn't actually have your ears on like what the microphone itself was picking up. So I know this isn't possible for everyone, but if you do have the ability to do this, then I think it can be a game changer. Here's the tone from my actual amp. Just finished up the capturing process. Please, baby, be good, because I don't want to keep doing this. Here is the Cortex. The Quad Cortex. Okay. Who calls it the Cortex? Okay, and here's our reference. I mean, it's close. There's a difference, but I don't think the Quad Cortex is a bad difference. I was actually having a hard time because I was wanting my amp to sound just like a little creamier in the top end, and I think it kind of did that for me. I'm gonna roll with this. This is our Immix 11 edge of breakup capture. Now that we got that amp squared away, it was time to move on to the second amp. Since the world has moved to digital, it kind of feels like stereo amp setups are like the new standard or even expectation. This is my go-to sound with my Marshall right now. And here's the capture. It's funny because it's so close and it kind of enhanced it. Cause see, look, if I go back to the reference, I know it's the reference because of the buzz, but the capture, none of that. It almost like enhances the amp in that sense. I know it's gonna upset some people. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's nice to not have the buzz. I think we're missing just like a little bit of gain, but it's close, it's usable. I'm gonna save it. The whole point of this dumb setup was to save time, and I ended up not saving any time at all. I spent 5 hours on a Saturday going through and capturing my amps in several different positions, because if they're already set up, I might as well take the time to get the amps in different settings, but you and I both know I'm probably not gonna use them. I'm gonna use like 2 or 3 of these captures at most. Pretty sure I could have dialed in the amps directly on the Helix in that same time frame and moved on with my life, but you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. Another Saturday given to YouTube. Here we go. This is the Helix into our Quad Cortex captures. That's cool. Let's do light drive. Sounds really cool. Okay, and then, you know, our feels like I'm playing on my amps and I'm getting the best of both worlds. I can't believe I'm gonna set up 2 modelers tomorrow, but it feels like a win. So what you all wanna know is, okay, well, what a few of you probably want to know is how did it go live? And it was great. It sounded awesome. I got a lot of comments from the band making fun of me for this setup, and I definitely deserved it. It's ridiculous. I don't know that I would recommend anyone going out of their way to buy 2 modelers and then use them simultaneously. That being said, once I had the Quad Cortex and the Helix set up across the floor, my rig was probably bigger than any of my old pedalboard setups, so that was ridiculous, and it took me 2 trips to bring everything in and back. Actually, I did get it in 1 trip, but I don't know if I would recommend it. I was about to drop something. Now, my friend who was playing is also a Helix user, and he tried out my rig and was like really surprised by how lifelike the Quad Cortex captures felt. That was the first thing he said. He like smiled and was like, wow, it feels like a real amp. And I think they definitely do a good job of that. You know, it's not identical, but there is a nice bounce to them, I gotta say. This was definitely a fun experiment. Now, will I be using this setup live again? I really don't know. It was pretty inconvenient, and it was strange because it simultaneously made me feel like some sort of like super tone genius and also just a complete idiot. But I definitely will be using this at home. I already have. I was working on a show this past week, and it was really convenient to be able to have the sound of my amps pulled up on the Quad Cortex without having to, you know, go through the whole setup and getting the mic placement just right and all that stuff. That's it for this week. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like on it before you head out and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Comment down below if you've ever done some sort of like hybrid dual modeling setup like this, and I'll catch you next time.